All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a big one, Calcarea Phosphorica, or phosphate of lime. Now, this is an absolutely crucial polycrest, a real cornerstone remedy, especially when we're talking about issues with growth and nutrition. You're going to see this one come up a lot, both in your clinical practice and definitely on your exams. So let's make sure we get this down cold. Let's get started.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll look at it in 4 key areas. First up, we'll get into its core constitution and how it shows up in childhood. Then we'll move on to what it looks like during puberty. After that, we'll cover its relationships with other remedies and its modalities. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with some focused exam prep to make sure you're ready.
Okay, first section, constitution and childhood. So let's start with the absolute basics, the foundational patient profile. You know, if you can really understand how this remedy looks in early life, you've pretty much grasped its core action. It's that important. Okay, so let's look at the direct words from Alan's keynotes right here. What you'll notice immediately is the picture he paints. Anemic, dark-complexioned people, and they're specifically thin or spare, not fat. And when we look at kids, the big problems pop up during teething. We're talking about diarrhea, being emaciated, and those classic developmental delays, like being really slow to learn to walk. And this, right here, brings us to an absolute classic exam question. You will be asked to compare Calcarea phosphorica with Calcarea carbonica. The difference is just night and day. Calc Phos is your thin, spare, dark-complected patient with a sunken, flabby tummy. Calc Carb, that's the total opposite, the classic fair, fat, flabby kid with a big, hard, distended belly. Now get this, both might be slow to walk, and that's the trick, but their fundamental constitutions couldn't be more different.
All right, let's keep going with what Alan says. The focus here really shifts to bone development. He talks about ricketus, what we call rickets, where the skull bones are thin and brittle. And right here, this is a huge keynote, so pay attention. The fontanelles and sutures either stay open for way too long, or, and this is the really unique part, they close and then reopen. This weakness isn't just in the head. It goes right down to the spine and neck, to the point where they just can't support the body or the head.
So let's just break that down because it's so important. First, you've got rickets, fragile bones. Second, you have that landmark symptom, the absolute giveaway, fontanelles that close and then reopen. Seriously, if you ever see that in a case, Calc Phos needs to be jumping to the front of your mind. And third, you've got this overall structural weakness, a weak spine that tends to curve to the left and a neck that's just too weak to hold up the head.
Okay, on to our second section, puberty and the clinical picture. Now we're going to shift gears and look at how this remedy applies during that massive growth spurt in the teenage years. And we'll cover some other really important clinical signs too.
So Alan gets very specific here. He points to girls at puberty who are just shooting up, growing tall way too fast. And it puts a huge strain on their whole skeletal system. And this often shows up as a classic trio of symptoms. You get acne, a headache right on the top of the head, the vertex, and this gassy indigestion that actually feels better after they eat. Now, emotionally, look for ailments that come from grief or disappointed love. And here's a really peculiar symptom. Their complaints actually feel worse when they just think about them. All right, let's lock this in because this is prime exam material. For puberty, here's what you need to remember. First, the patient, that tall, rapidly growing teenage girl. Second, you have to commit this symptom triad to memory: acne, vertex headache, and that gassy indigestion that's better from eating. And third, don't forget the mental side of things. The cause can be grief, and you've got that strange modality where things get worse just by thinking about them. This is a super high-yield area for sure.
Okay, to finish out the clinical picture, Alan gives us a few more really distinct symptoms. This remedy is a huge deal for bones that just won't heal, non-union to fractures. It helps build up that callus. It's got a really strong seasonal thing going on with rheumatism. It shows up in the fall and goes away in the spring. It's also famous for these schoolgirls' headache. And then we get another one of these incredible keynotes, a fistula in the anus that alternates with chest symptoms. Wild, right? And on top of all that, the patient is just generally chilly. They lack that internal warmth.
I really want to stop and focus on this one symptom because it is so unique and so important. A fistula in the anus that alternates with chest symptoms. What does that even mean? It means when the fistula is open and discharging, the chest feels fine. But when that fistula closes up or heals, boom, the chest problems start. This is a textbook example of what we call alternating pathology, and it is an absolute golden keynote for Calcarea phosphorica.
All right, let's move on to section 3, relations and modalities. Now, this is a super critical section. You need to know this stuff for accurate prescribing in the real world, and you absolutely need it for those comparative questions on exams. We're going to look at which remedies it works well with, and of course, what makes the patient feel better or worse.
So let's just run through the key relationships and modalities here. Its complementary remedy is Ruta. Think of them together, especially with bone issues. Now, it's very similar to Silesia, but here is the key difference, and you have got to remember this for your exams. Calcarea Phos does not have the profuse, sweaty head that is so characteristic of Silesia. The modalities, they're really straightforward. Everything gets worse from damp, cold, changeable weather, and everything gets better in the summer in a warm, dry atmosphere.
And that brings us to our final section, exam preparation. This is where we pull it all together and make sure this information sticks. We're going to quickly review the keynotes, I'll give you a really helpful mnemonic, and then we'll put your knowledge to the test with some practice questions. Okay, this is your high-yield summary, your cheat sheet, basically. If you're cramming for an exam and can only remember a few things, make it these: the thin, dark constitution, the developmental delays in kids, especially that crazy reopening fontanelle symptom, the whole world of bone problems, from rickets to fractures that won't heal, the issues that pop up during puberty in tall girls, the classic schoolgirl's headache, and finally, those really strong weather modality.
And to help you lock this information in your brain, I've got a simple mnemonic for you. Just think bones. B is for brittle, thin cranial bones. O is for open fontanelles. N is for non-union of fractures. E is for emaciated anemic children. And S is for slow to walk with a weak spine. Super simple, right? Use that to quickly pull up the core features when you're under pressure in an exam.
So where are you actually going to use this stuff? In a clinical setting, you'll be reaching for Calcarea Phosphorica for things like delayed or really difficult teething, for rickets and other bone development problems, and for those frustrating fractures that are just taking forever to heal. It's also a go-to for growing pains and spinal issues in teens, and for that deep, lingering weakness and anemia after someone's been really sick.
All right, time to see what you've learned. Let's do a little self-assessment. Here's question 1. You have a 14-year-old girl, she's grown very tall recently, and she complains of headaches on the top of her head, acne, and gassy indigestion that feels better after she eats. Which remedy is most indicated here? Take a second. Think about it. Okay, question number 2. This one's all about differentiation. According to Alan's keynotes, what's the key symptom that helps you tell Calcarea Phos apart from Silesia when you're looking at kids with developmental delays?
Question 3. Now, this one is testing you on a very specific, very unique keynote. Which of these is the characteristic feature of how Calcarea Phosphorica acts on an infant's cranial bones?
In question 4, this one is all about the modalities. So a patient's rheumatic pains consistently get worse when autumn begins and they go away in the spring. This strong seasonal pattern points to which remedy?
All right, last question. Remember that really peculiar alternating symptom that Alan mentions for Calcarea Phosphorica? What is it? This is a straight-up test of your keynote recall. Okay, let's see how you did. The answers are, number 1 is C, Calcarea Phosphorica. That was the classic puberty triad. Number 2 is also C. The absence of head sweat is what separates it from Silesia. For number 3, the answer is B, that unforgettable keynote of fontanelles closing and reopening. Number 4 is D, Calcarea Phosphorica, for that distinct seasonal rheumatism. And finally, number 5 is C, the fistula in the anus alternating with chest symptoms. See? Every single answer comes directly from the keynotes we just went over.
So, let's wrap this up. What is Calcarea Phosphorica really? Well, it's a deep, profound remedy for that thin, chilly patient. Their whole problem revolves around a failure to assimilate, a failure to grow properly, and it almost always targets the bones. If you can master its keynotes and really get a feel for its constitution, you'll have an incredibly powerful tool in your toolbox, not just for your exams, but for your entire future practice.